time to be within orientation and family programs. There's been lots of great opportunities to stay involved and connected with our families. And if I have met you in person, great. And if not, this is a great opportunity for you to stay connected virtually. I am also a graduate from FIU as well. I did my bachelor's here at FIU, and I have been very heavily involved with our community and been very heavily involved with our students that I decided to come back and be here at this institution and really help progress our orientation program and our family program as well. So if this is your first time joining here, our family mini series, thank you for tuning in. I know this is going to be an opportunity for you to create a relationship and stay connected with us within our mini series. And especially if you are also an FIU alum and you are returning as a mini series member, welcome back. We're always looking forward to spending evenings with our alumni, with our new family members or returning members, especially as you're supporting your students in continuing that Panther legacy. So the point of these webinar episodes is to really connect you with the FIU resources and professional staff members as we help you get as much information that you need to support your students' experience here at FIU. During this session, you will hear from my colleague Michelle, leading the Talent Lab at FIU in Washington, D.C., which really helps connect our students with those transformative professional experiences that align both with our university's priorities and especially understanding our students' interests. As the Director of Student Experience and Impact, she really helps promote our academic and internship opportunities that really help foster career readiness, leadership, and advocacy. We're going to introduce her in just a bit, but before we do, if this is your first time attending our Zoom webinar, I do just want to address some technical aspects of this session, especially since we are in a Zoom webinar. So at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see that there is a Q&A feature as well as the chat feature. So the Q&A, which stands for question and answer, this is going to be a great feature for you to use should you have any questions throughout the entirety of our presentation today from my colleague. Maybe you'd want to write something down, write it in the Q&A, and we will address all of our questions that we have towards the end of this session. We are going to use the chat feature to maybe post some announcements or maybe even links or just general messages. So if you do want to address any one of ourselves as staff members, feel free to use the Q&A feature. We understand that we are in this internet technological space, so if you happen to lose connection, not a problem. You're more than welcome to log back into the Zoom webinar link in which was sent to your email. And also, I do want to remind folks that we are streaming this webinar as well through our Facebook platform. So hello, Facebook attendees. If you have any Facebook comments that you'd like to leave, we have some of our staff members as well helping us address some of those questions. And you will find this recording on our Orientation and Family Programs Facebook page. So should you need to log back in at a later time for you to be able to follow up with the information that was said today, absolutely, you'll be able to do that as well. Now, with that said, I would love to bring up my colleague today, Michelle Castro. She is on the line or on our webinar with us. So let me go ahead and see if I see her. Amazing. Hello, Michelle. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So with that being said, Michelle, I would love for you to introduce a little bit about yourself as well. And as you pull up your presentation, we'd love to get to know a little bit of who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much. As Vanessa said, I'm the Director of Student Experience and Impact here at FIU in Washington, D.C., or FIU in D.C. for short. And let me pull up my PowerPoint at the same time. I am also an FIU alumna. 2 times. I have a BA in International Relations and a minor in Political Science. And then traveled for my sorority for a year out of undergrad and then decided to go to graduate school to study college students. And so I have a master's in college student personnel from Bowling Green State University in Ohio, but then worked in some different universities and then transitioned back in 2011 to FIU because it is a great alma mater and really made an impact in my life. And so in 2011, I returned I managed our student government association and did student activities for up to about almost 2 years now that I've almost been in DC. Transitioned to this role, but helped with what we're going to talk about when we talk a little bit about fly-ins, talk about the evolution of FIU in Washington, DC, and the opportunities that we have for students. But I started out my career on campus, so I'm very much familiar. I was a former peer advisor orientation leader when I was an undergraduate student. It really is what got me into higher education and student affairs. And so I am always excited to talk to parents. Actually, I'll give you a little secret. My favorite part of orientation was actually doing the parent panels and all the parent stuff, just because it's always fun to share what you're doing, what you're looking forward to for your students to experience. But I always enjoyed talking to the parents. So with that, I'm excited about tonight, but I am very much a proud alumna. And then I got my PhD in higher education from FIU as well, looking at international study tours and what that means for professionals, but being able to talk a little bit more about this experiential learning. And so FIU in Washington, D.C. is all about that. So I look forward to sharing about FIU in Washington, D.C. and what we have to offer. So hopefully, yep, you should be able to see my slides.
Yes. And so thank you, Michelle, for that wonderful intro. And so again, family members, Michelle comes with a variety of experiences here at FIU, but today in particular, we're going to focus on the opportunities about which we have partnerships here within Washington, D.C. So as a reminder, families, if you have questions throughout the entirety of the portion, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A. But Michelle, I'll go ahead and have you take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much. So again, we're transforming student experiences. So talk a lot about our talent lab, but also what it means to be in Washington, D.C. with us. So as you already know, FIU is our Miami's public research university. We're top 50 at US News and World Reports in our rankings. We're a preeminent state research university, and we have $306 million in research expenditures. And the reason why we bring this up is that we bring the 305 to the 202 is what we say. And so this puts it into context of why we have doubled down in Washington, D.C., and why we have a presence here because of that research expenditures, but also knowing that we are one of a few universities. There are actually several universities that have a facility here in the sense of their lobbying team or their governmental relations team. They will have students here interning in Washington, D.C., but we are very unique in how we do our programming. And I'll dive into that, but wanted to give you that perspective. And so we look at it in three different sections that all work together. Our solutions area is where we increase resources and new research business activity for the university. It is putting our research perspectives into what we're doing and promoting the institution that way. Then we have our talent lab. Like it says, it's enhancing that academic experience and increasing those internships and job placements. It's that practical, hands-on experience, that experiential learning that we want students to connect that in and out of classroom experience. And then we talk about our idea exchange. This is where we're talking about supporting national reputation. We want to be in the room where it happens, and this is how we are in being here in Washington, D.C. It's about our rankings, it's being strategic, but it's also showcasing our relevance here in DC, our relevance in our research, and our relevance in what we do and why FIU is a top-notch university. And so these are our federal priorities. And we look at this as environmental resiliency, looking at water quality. Because we're South Florida, we know that we are surrounded by water on our sides. It's important for us to know what's going on. If you're from the Miami area, South Florida area, you know about the fish kills. So we have researchers who are doing this research on looking at water quality, looking at how we can make a difference. Then resilient coastal infrastructure. Because of hurricanes, because of what's going on, it is really important for us and vital. And then the Everglades. This is the largest restoration project. We are very much in the ecosystem, and we have a lot of different researchers and PhD students and undergraduate students working on Everglades research. Then we do population health. We're looking at health outcomes. We're looking at brain health. We're looking at cancer research, particularly precision medicine, through Dr. Diana Azam is one of our researchers. We're also looking at Alzheimer's research because South Florida has an older population. We are prime for that type of research. And so we have faculty that are doing all of this, and undergraduates and graduate students can participate in many of these labs and many of these experiences. And then technology. We're looking at defense technologies in the form of our cold spray lab, which is additive manufacturing. And then we're looking at also these really cool 3D antennas that are foldable. Origami meets art, meets practicality. And so this is all part of this defense technologies conversation that we're having. And also STEM education in the future of Miami Tech, as Miami is evolving, and we are bringing in more and more technology into the city. A mini Silicon Valley, it's important for us to stay up to date with that and what that looks like. And then international, as we know, we're the gateways to Latin America and the Caribbean and to the world. And so it is important for us to have a presence regarding Western Hem and the Caribbean, with many of our departments, many of our areas, looking at research, talking about what it means for Miami itself. And all of these always revolve about through Miami, about Miami, and about our research. So as I said earlier, we bring the 305 to the 202. So these are just a few elements of what I just talked about. Our water buoys that are collecting data, our health innovations, population health, and then increasing science, technology, education, and working with our students. For us, impact matters. And so this is very much a theme, and this is our website, but impact matters in what we do and how we work with our students who are interning here in Washington, D.C., with our stakeholders, with our partners. And then these are our members of Congress from both sides of the aisles. These are our champions. These are individuals that help us receive some of our federal funding to do the research. And it's important for us to work with everyone. And so we spend time talking to them about what we're looking to do, what is happening. And they are our biggest champions for Florida International University, for helping us secure funding, like I said, and they come to campus, they come to different events, we go to see them, and it's great to have them here. So the idea exchange is how we convene our national stakeholders, like I said earlier, to the nation's capital. We bring many different types of programming into our facility, and it's an opportunity for our students, but also for our faculty, staff, researchers to get engaged. And so this is just an example. We host over 65 different programs and about 3,500 different individuals who have walked through our doors. We look at higher education, we look at STEM, we look at Miami. We're looking at resiliency, Latin America and the Caribbean, global health, and cybersecurity. We've had different partners come in and talk about different topics. In the photograph, you'll see our interactive wall behind us. It is a space that's configurable. We can move it around to be theater style. We can move it around to be pods. And so it is used not only for the idea exchange, as we call it, but also for our talent lab, for our classroom space. But this just shows the opportunities that students will have and our researchers and our staff in the different interactions of being here in Washington, D.C. And it's very much how DC operates. It's that opportunity to network, to convene, to have discussions, and really dive into topics you would have never thought you were going to dive into. So this is just one of those examples. We've had different agencies in our space as well. We've had these different agencies work with us on briefings. In the photograph is another type of opportunity where we zoomed in some individuals, and then we had our in-person participants, but we had students there, we had staff, we talked about different topics. We've worked with NASA, we've with the former USAID agency. And so being able to really dive into the conversations and topics is important to us. And then these are some other images, some different panels, our conference room and opportunities to really engage. And then we have a state-of-the-art media lab that helps us do this and promote these activities. And so there are several times that we will webcast out in information as well to anyone who's interested in watching what is going on here in Washington, D.C. And again, a few more photographs. even of our space. So we have some research cubbies. So every day we are reminded about what our research priorities are, and it's always a great opportunity for us to talk about it and to add to these cubbies. In the picture, there is our Everglades. We have our Aquarius, which is a um, laboratory that is being used to do some research and that we are prepping for a new one. We pay tribute to the campus and we pay tribute to the Wall of Wind. And then we keep adding to these cubbies as we have more and more research coming out. But we host conferences here as well. And then we have our faculty members. We have introductions of faculty on our big screen that welcome students and staff. We can work through what this interactive showcase looks like, and it's our pride and joy, but it really is a very state-of-the-art facility. It's 3,000 square feet, and we get to do a lot of in this space. So again, some more images of some different panels and presentations. And then we've doubled down in Washington, D.C. We also have impressions or ad space in the DCA airport as well as in Dulles. But this is an opportunity. So if you're coming with your family, with students, with anyone, you will see our ads in these airports. We've also have some ads in some other major cities like New York City, I believe Fort Lauderdale as well. But this is an opportunity for us to really enhance what we're doing here and really showcase FIU. And so we are always happy when individuals see our ads and let us know. They are in the DCA airport in between Concourse C and D. And so it's always a nice time. And we have a few others. So let's dive into the talent lab, which is the area that I really focus on in working with our students because we see our students and our interns here as our research advocates. We want them to be well versed in what we're doing as research, but it's also because we want them to be inquisitive and really dive into that practicality of taking what they learn in classes and applying it. So it's not just taking the internship and taking classes online or in person. It is really connecting the dots. And we want our students to help us moderate different panels and opportunities. And so this slide talks a little bit about who we are as a talent lab. We have a online micro-credential course that any student can take. It's self-paced. And it really opens the door to what DC is. So if they're not sure what it means to come to Washington, DC, this is the perfect primer. We also host fly-in seminars. These are 3-day experiential learning activities. We are the only institution that hosts 25 academic fly-ins within an academic year. We've already hosted about 4 this semester. The rest of them will take place mainly in the spring semester and into a little bit into the summer. But this is an opportunity to bring up students to really see what Washington, D.C. is like. The goal is that they are DC hungry and they want an internship or an opportunity or position here in DC. And so we will help them. We have partners that will cover the cost of the trip. And it is 3 days of, that's not a sightseeing time. It is literally within a topic and they are meeting those experts. They are going to Capitol Hill. We are doing a lot of experiential learning and I'll talk a little bit about it in the next slide. But it's an opportunity to really engage. We also do a Mount Vernon. So these trips will give us an opportunity for these students to land internships. On every fly-in, we try to connect students to internship sites that they might be interested in, or with those alumni and friends that are able to at least provide feedback on what are the ways they should answer the questions, how they should sell themselves on their resume for that job, for that internship. And then we do a Mount Vernon leadership seminar every fall and spring where we take students to Mount Vernon to see the first presidential library, but also the house. But it's through leadership through George Washington's lens. And it is a phenomenal experience. They get to do some interactive Be Washington programming where they get to make decisions and hear what Washington did and what many of the founding fathers did. Then we have three different types of courses that are taught here in Washington, D.C. in person. And then the rest of the time, the students will take courses online. But we have what we call our green academic semester. So if you have students that are studying political science, international relations, criminal justice, are part of the Stephen J. Green School of International and Political Affairs, that is our green academic semester. They will take 2 in-person classes here in Washington, D.C. If they're selected, we're generally looking for juniors and seniors, sometimes in the tail end of their sophomore year. But it's an opportunity to take 2 courses with alumni that are here based in Washington, D.C., have more than a decade of opportunity in working here. One is a strategic like communications course, and the other one is a public policy course. But both of them have a project at the end where they need to work on a policy briefing. They learn public speaking. They learn how to write for the business or the jobs that they're looking for. But it is an academic opportunity, but it also is a connector piece here in DC to have peers that are taking classes with you in person and then talking through your own experiences with your internship. Then we have our students who are part of CARTA, particularly our Kaplan News students. So if they are in the journalism major or digital broadcasting, they have an opportunity to come up within a given time period to actually broadcast live from the nation's capital. We have about 4 to 6 students per semester, including the summer. Our green academic semester is only fall and spring. Our Carta Kaplan News students are actually every semester, and they have an opportunity to also interact with 2 adjunct faculty members that are in the business. So they learn about deadlines, they learn about editing on at the moment, and they learn about really diving into the topics of interest for themselves, but also broadcasting what's going on news related here in Washington, D.C. And every semester there is something happening. And so they all have really blossomed in their opportunities to engage and what that looks like. And then we have what we call our Hamilton Scholar academic semester. This is for any honors student. So if you have a student that is an honors student, they can apply any disciplinary, it's interdisciplinary, and it's an opportunity. We'll help them find an internship, and then they take a course in person with an alumna. She happens to be an FIU law alumna that works for the National Broadcasters Association, and she teaches the course in understanding what DC is like. So it is a seminar in Washington, DC. And it's hands-on practical opportunities as well. And that is offered fall and spring. We do have students come every semester. They don't have to take these classes. They can also come up and just have an internship and take their courses online at FIU. Then we hope that these opportunities will lead to jobs. And sorry to the families out there, we want them to break your hearts. We want them to want to stay in Washington, D.C. Because home will always be home. You can really attempt Washington, D.C. and stay here and really get a lot out of the experience. And then we want them to be our champion of employers. So what we hope is that any student, anyone who has gone through our program and they've stayed here in Washington, D.C. will help us then hire more of our FIU graduates or FIU interns to have the same experience that they did. In which we want that to happen so that we are championing our Panthers. And we've had some very interesting and cool experiences where Accenture is a contractor here. They went from hiring one FIU individual, and that opened the door. They have about 13 to 15 employees that have an FIU tie, and it just happened to be because they knew that like recruiting from FIU is important. Guidehouse is another organization that we recently found out that there's about 20 individuals or more that work at Guidehouse with an FIU connection. So it's out there. And then we have our learning outcomes. And the reason why we have this here is that we provide the leadership development programming for all the interns in DC. Doesn't matter if they're part of any of the 3 academic programs. All interns that are coming through and coming to Washington, DC, we connect with. And we provide leadership opportunities. We want our students to moderate panels, but we have these learning outcomes where we always have a presentation on our panel discussion on communication and what that looks like. Emerging technologies, we are keeping up to date with what is happening. Policy, politics, and history. This year, it's America 250 because we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States. We do a global learning and doing where we are looking at whatever different topics there are and how that relates back, but to that global learning. We want them to really apply what it is that they're learning. And then we do professional career development is we help with resumes, we help with interviews. We also provide some coaching, but we have our alumni that are in the area come back and give some of these conversations, give some of these panel discussions, but also some mentorship. So we've had over 900 participants since the inception of this program, and we've 95 different internship sites have been throughout our time here in DC. And so as we continue to grow that, we want to really have our students dive in and really appreciate what's out there. So I put this in here as a new era of student programs because we're working with 40 targeted organizations to help students find internships. We are looking at different areas, the Department of State, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So it is not just political science and international relations. We want all types of majors participating in our programs because DC is an interdisciplinary city. They need individuals who are looking at HR. They need accountants here in the federal government. They need all of that in all the different corporations that are here. We also are we do a lot of advocacy in communications in Miami and DC. And so we also are making sure that students and our faculty and staff are familiar with our programming. And then we already launched, so there's a slight typo. We launched this last spring. So this is our second semester. So this spring semester will actually be the third semester of our green semester programming. And our program and it's growing exponentially every semester. So we're very excited about that. So this is just what we're working on. And then we have a newsletter. It's really an announcement board of professional development opportunities for students, so including our different fly-ins, but also internships. So we do the work for them. We gather it with deadlines. These little blue boxes here is an opportunity. The little blue boxes here is an opportunity for students to click on that, and it will take them directly to that application so they can apply for those internships. We advertise paid internships. We want students to be able to afford to be here. We don't want them going into further debt. And so these are paid internships, paid opportunities, and they're in a variety of different topics. And we break them down per the semester that they're being offered. So if they're looking for summer, some of the summer internships have already started to post, and we've been advertising those. There's actually a few that have posted for the fall. And we, again, have already started to advertise those because we want to help students line up internships, provide feedback when needed. We work with our career and talent development office as well, but it's an opportunity really to engage students. Uh-oh, there we go. And then we have what we call our fly-ins, and I started talking about these. These are our 3-day experiential seminars. So we have done climate technologies. We have looked at population health. Our last one this October was actually space, aerospace, and innovation. We, with our new university president, are looking at space Florida. Florida is becoming a big area, even more so than it has been with space. And so we took advantage of the topic and worked on a space, aerospace, and innovation fly-in where we prepared students of all disciplines to really talk about what that looks like. And for these, we really want them to draft solutions. So they work on a hackathon, they work on a question in particular as groups of, and this usually these fly-ins are about 15 to 20 students. So they get to know each other, meet each other, but we do pre-activities as well on campus. So we take them to lab tours within engineering or other topics, depending on what the topic is, so that they become familiar with what we're doing at FIU. We also take them once they're here to Capitol Hill, so they get to meet with members of Congress. We take them to those industry insiders, so those career corporations. And then we have them meet with either agencies, policy advisors, so they understand what is what is being discussed here in Washington, D.C. But these fly-ins are exceptional. We're the only institution that offers this many fly-ins and these opportunities to really come in and engage in Washington, D.C. And then this is just a smattering of some of the different resources that we use. We have our students read a book. I know on top of classes, we last fall did Talking Across the Divide with the upcoming election. We've talked about innovation would do bigger things. And then this semester, we're talking about how to have conversations. So, how to get your points across in an effective communication manner when you have to think on your feet. Then Politico, Washington Post Live, Punchbowl News, Axios are opportunities for us to engage. These are political magazines that give the news, and we encourage our students to subscribe to them. They're free, but this will give them a smattering of what's going on. But also, these different organizations host many wonderful educational events, panels on top of what we're already doing. So it's really an opportunity for them to learn to network, engage, and attend these functions. Also, side note, some of them have food. So it's a great opportunity for them to grab a quick early bite or sometimes a post evening meal. But we want them to connect. A lot of our staff will go to these events as well. And there is always something to learn on a daily basis. And then the Monday note is actually from our office and from our team. We send out a little newsletter email that goes out to our stakeholders talking about what is coming up even within our space and our facility, and what we are working on as our priorities. And then I put this in here just so you have an idea of what we're looking for and what we talk with our partners about as well. So we want students that are already leading. We want students that are eager for this national leadership opportunity. We want students who are really excited. If you're student is coming up to DC for a conference, we also want to know because we want to engage. We just met with 10 PhD students in criminology last week at a conference. We love to showcase that information, but we like to have it as well. And then we always look for students to be nominated. So you too can nominate your student to come up on a fly-in. And we are looking for more scientists. We're looking for engineers. We're looking for economists, and we're looking for communicators. Because at the end of the day, everything has to be communicated on what all these agencies, bureaus, organizations are working on, no matter what the major is. And again, as I said, impact matters to us, and it's really important. And then what I didn't share is that we unfortunately do not have housing, but we do help students get housing opportunities and connect our students. So as I mentioned, we connect with the students. We also do a group chat of all the interns that are coming up to DC to make sure that they always have a staff member liaison, myself and members of our team, to make sure that they are feeling okay here in DC once they transition. We also do what we call an intern send off from Miami. So, all students that we know are coming up for a semester, it doesn't matter if it's fall, spring, or summer, we host this send off every year. So, we will host one this December for their spring cohort. And then at the end of the spring semester, um, we will say goodbye to our students, and then we will prepare for our summer cohort to come up. So we will do something again at the end of the spring semester for the summer cohort and at the end of the summer, right before classes begin in the fall. So we are constantly making sure that our students know who we are as a team and that we are providing resources for them as much as possible. And then we work through scholarships. So there might be a question about funding. Students will pay regular tuition to FIU. We have no extra program fees. And we also try to help our students with any extra funding if possible. There are some dollars out there that we can use, but we try to make sure that we, again, are advertising paid internships and helping them through that process of making sure that they get the most out of the experience. So from there, I will stop sharing, and then I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Michelle, on sharing this experience. I mean, I've seen it. Well, it has exponentially grown, right, since that location and area has first started. So I'd like to start off with a question. And again, if family members, should you have any type of question or comment you would like to ask Michelle, the Q&A feature is located right there in the bottom of the screen based on some of the information that you shared. As you have this type of program, sometimes family members ask, when is it a good time to start looking for an internship, especially if their student is just a first year? Do you see mostly upperclassmen join your types of programs out there? Do you see first years? So let's start off with that.
Yeah, so it's really it's twofold, right? It's if your student feels confident and ready to move up and kind of not be completely on their own, but in a way need to be independent enough that they can manage because DC, we would recommend that they don't bring their vehicle from Florida, from Miami. We recommend that they really take in the city, but we're here to help and guide that. So if they feel comfortable, I think it's also that it's working through the type of internship they're looking for. A lot of our students will start out with members of Congress, where there's lots of different interns. It's really having them look at their resume, make sure they're selling themselves. But really, we've seen second semester sophomores up to our seniors, and then individuals graduating from undergraduate. And then there are internships that look for postgraduate. So they have up to a year to apply for those after they've graduated their senior year. In an ideal world, we would love to have, juniors and seniors. But we've had some very successful sophomores who have then stayed on. We had a student here who started in one internship at a member of Congress office. She enjoyed it so much, she was able to find another internship. And then she added another internship the next semester. She stayed here. And then she worked through with her dean her courses and was able to graduate on time and making sure that she took everything. And it really isn't as an opportunity because she fell in love with what she was doing. She wanted to stay. And she still is here in DC working in actually for a public health organization in her major. So she's really enjoyed it.
Hmm. That's great to showcase that also there are, faculty and staff out there that are willing to work with students to find out what are some of the opportunities to stay to continue. So it's really great that you mentioned that, and you mentioned the difference of experiences that go through. So it's never too early to plan, especially for a lot of the students nowadays. They want to be able to see like, okay, what careers can I get out there from there? So you worked a lot with students so far. Could you share a little bit about some of the skills that a student may benefit personally, whether it be public speaking, whether it be learning time management from, what are some of the benefits that you've seen students learn out of your programs?
Yeah, so they have definitely learned that public speaking skill, that ability to brief somebody, is a very much a skill set that our students come back from their internship experiences, really explaining that they've learned to be succinct in their conversations, succinct with what they're trying to express, and also realizing that they're going to finish their degrees, but what they may have thought they wanted to do maybe a little bit of a shift. They may fall in love with many say they want to do policy. And then you ask them, what does that mean? What are you passionate about? And so there are opportunities here, working in any of the different areas provides them that knowledge base to figure out, okay, I have an interest in XYZ. Or we have a student who talked to me about she got an internship about energy and she really didn't know anything about energy. And her internship taught her a lot that now she knows the terminologies and she works for a member of Congress office. So she can now flag information and be knowledgeable. And again, no one is the expert here, but there's an opportunity to engage. So really, I think the skill set is they need to be inquisitive, being excited about learning and about just taking on the moment here. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of free museums. Like I said, DC is very much an educational city. There is always an event happening that has speakers, has senators, has representatives, networking. So being okay to be a little shy, but we've seen students really grow out of their shell and gotten really much better at those interactions of talking to other individuals at a reception and trading business cards or LinkedIn. DC is a LinkedIn city. So if the students will get, and I know through their SLS classes, they need to, their freshman experience class, they get to create that LinkedIn profile, actually using it and being familiar with it helps. And that's why we see more sophomores, juniors. I will be remiss if I don't say that if there is a first year student, I'm happy to connect them with our Miami team. They're currently working on some Miami internships within some of our partners there. That could be a stepping stone into DC. And then they're also working on a Tallahassee program as well to place students in that. Tallahassee runs on a very different session blockage. So unlike members of Congress, they have a whole semester. Session in the state of Florida is only about 60 days. And depending on if it's an even year or an odd year is when the legislative session begins. So it begins now in January for this year. And then the following year it begins in March. So even years, January, odd years, March, but it's an opportunity that way. So if there's anyone who's interested or their student is interested, I'm happy to connect them to our Miami team, our governmental relations team there.
That's really great that we're expanding in different areas to include more of a community of students in different cities, areas around the state of Florida. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a little bit something earlier about first year experience and courses. And earlier in your presentation, you talked a little bit about a micro credential. Could you explain a little bit about what that is to our family members? That might be something new for them to hear.
Yes, so our micro-credential course, and there are several within the institution, is a free course that ours in particular is self-paced. And so they fulfill some of the different requirements. So they have a little bit of a homework assignment. One of them is basically they take a quiz, it gives them some points. They write a letter to a member of Congress. They have to write up what they think a policy that should be either corrected or fixed or added. But it's self-paced. So we have video modules that they can do. And then they fulfill that. And then once they get it, we issue them a micro credential badge that they can add to their resume. For our green semester, we ask that they've taken one of the many different micro credentials that is out there. So the DC Ready is one of those micro credentials that will prepare them. And then there's a few others that also fulfill that. But highly recommend just taking it so that they become a little more familiar with how government works. And it's okay that if they don't remember it all from their civics class or their government class, it's a refresher course for everybody. So that's why we want all the majors to do it and take it, but it's free. And again, this one is self-paced, so they can start it now and they have about a year to finish it.
And is that something that you would encourage like family members to talk to their students about prior to maybe applying to a FIU and DC internship experience, or is that during the experience that they take it if they'd like to?
It can be taken whenever they would like. I would recommend that they do it a little bit earlier, just so they have a sense of what it is that they might be looking for in an internship, particularly if they're taking classes and, they're still not sure 100% what it is that they want to do, but they want an internship. And so that way they have some talking points, because what we have noticed is that there are students that are doing fabulous, great things, but they can't articulate what it is that they have done. And they don't have to worry about if they don't have the um, job experience, because if they're members of a student organization and they're running a budget, you put down that you ran a budget. It doesn't matter how much it is. We have found that students who share that type of information, if they play a sport, that is a job in itself, right? Getting up, going to practice, managing their grades. And so we want them to sell themselves. And so it really is more about being able to articulate what it is that they have interest in, even if they're not sure if that is the exact interest. But it's helpful for us to help them find internships, but it's also helpful for us when we're meeting with them and myself and one other person on our team, we all do, but we all meet with the students and kind of talk to them about their interests. So it's helpful that I know that Michelle Castro is interested in diplomacy. So we can see if there was maybe a ranking member of Congress that is doing something near that area, or if there's someone at State Department that we can connect them to. Even if it's not an internship, it's that opportunity to coffee chats here in Washington, D.C. are big. And so it's helping students realize that sometimes you take an internship to try it out, and then you kind of find your path of what you want to do.
Definitely enjoy those coffee chats. Hopefully, we make that also a thing here in Miami. It's sometimes a little too hot to drink coffee, but that's still good. And that's a good point that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you talked about the micro credential, that it's a good opportunity for maybe to take a student to take that earlier to see if they really are interested in that experience. And so switching gears into, let's say, if a student is already there in DC doing an internship as well. Can you talk a little bit about students as in addition to, you mentioned earlier that you don't have to be a political science major. You don't have to be a criminal justice major. How have students mixed their regular experiences versus this interest? Does it make sense for them?
Yeah, so the one of the examples of the student who was here for several semesters was actually a public health student through the College of Nursing. And so she was able to work for a member of Congress who had a health portfolio. Then she found an organization, Battelle, where she did some research and she was an intern. And then she found PCORI, which is another health policy. And so that kind of guided her in the rest of her studies of finishing her degree. But she had tried out some different functional areas. She has learned every time from those organizations. And so she was able to grow. And now she has a full-time job. Um, I believe working for a lobbying firm in the public health sector where she does some analyzing and writes up some of the materials and keeps track of the health opportunities. So that's one example. We have had students that have worked at different members of Congress office and have just been promoted and have looked for different responsibilities. So you start out as an intern, then you can become, if once you graduate or you have a degree, sometimes it's more that you become a staff assistant, a legislative assistant. Now you have become a little more familiar. And so we have a student who worked for a member of Congress and then now works for a standing committee within the House. And so we want to connect students to those opportunities. And so the student is the staffer for the committee, and they will prepare all the briefing documents. So they work for the majority or the minority side of the committee, but there's always a side, but it gives them that prep. So they don't really work for one member; they work for the committee, which is a whole different experience. So there's lots of growth and opportunities here to dabble in what you're looking for. And as I tell students, you can do an internship for 12 weeks or 15 weeks and then realize that you want to try something else. We have students that go to think tanks as well. And, think tanks are colleges without students, right? They do a lot of research. So if your student is research hungry, they like to write. Think tanks is another organization, and we have them on all sides. And so we help students prepare themselves for what that can look like. We have a student right now at the Atlantic Council, which is a top think tank, particularly working in the Latin America sector. And that was his interest. He also did national security. And so being able to connect those dots, he just helped put together a panel. And so he's grown exponentially from that. And now he wants to stay. So pretty much right now I'm looking at, there are 9 students in our spring or in our fall cohort for our green semester. Those are all different majors within that school. About half of them are trying to stay for another semester. So they're growing and they're encouraging their friends to join them. And we also have engineers that come up. Sorry,
No, you're
my
good.
train of thought, but we do have some students that come up for engineering majors, particularly in the summer. We know that can be a little bit harder with that major, so they start a little bit earlier, maybe in their sophomore year. But there are engineering majors that have come up to work for MITRE and some of the different contractors. we advertise those as well. And then we have had students work for the Department of Energy. There's some fellowships through the engineering department that works at the Department of Energy. And then we had a student who did that as a fellowship. And then we were able to secure them a different type of internship within the Department of Energy here doing some small business work because they were interested in the policy sector. So they are doing engineering, they're doing the math, the hard stuff, but then they also now are interested in policy. So again, there's opportunities to connect. We have communication majors that have stayed and have worked for either Partnership for Public Service, have worked for a member of Congress. We just have a recent alumna that now works for the majority leadership, and so opportunities to engage that way. So we have seen students evolve. We've also had our journalism students come back. So we have a student who did their Kaplan News segment, then came back to work for Punchbowl News, and now is trying to return again to work for another news organization. So we have had lots of successes. So if your student is interested, have them connect with me, and I'm happy to walk them through what are the options. And if not, work through what we can help them find, because we'll do some digging, and we always find some new internships that we didn't even know about.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. And like I mentioned, family members, your student just doesn't have to be a specific type of major. There's definitely an experience where the professionals in DC, like Michelle, can connect your students with possible growth. So Michelle, that pretty much wraps up your participation for the night. We thank you so much for being here today. I don't know if you want to or be able to, if you could be able to share some contact information within the chat so our family members can connect them with your student, or the student can connect them with you, so that way students can be able to reach out to you. All right.
And then here's our website as well, talentlab.fiu.edu. Hold on one second. It likes to make it separate because it doesn't believe that the words should be together. That
Mm-hmm.
is where they can sign up for the newsletter, or if you would like to send me their email, I'm happy to add them to the newsletter. If any of you are interested in receiving our newsletter, you can fill out that form as well. It doesn't have to just be students, but it's an opportunity that we will share that out, and it goes out pretty much every 2 weeks when possible, with all the internships and the deadlines.
Awesome. There you have it, family members, talentlab.fiu.edu. Definitely encourage your student to join the newsletter listserv so they can also receive some of the information on the future possible open opportunities for them. And so, Michelle, you are free to go for the
Mhm.
evening. I'm going to go ahead and do some wrap up, but thank you again for joining. All right, everyone. So it's my pleasure to be able to wrap up a little bit of what we have going on for the remaining of the semester slash this is our last mini series for the semester. But again, we want to connect you with orientation resources, especially if this is your first time joining our webinar. And so we have our parent and family virtual orientation course that we always have, that it's going to be free for family members to review. Now, again, if you have joined our mini series before, this might sound very familiar as we're announcing that. But if this is your first time, family members, this is our parent or family orientation course, in which it is a free course that you can be able to enroll in using any email that you would like to have. It's a interactive modules where you could see videos, different individuals representing different offices and areas. So if you'd like to create an account, you can go ahead and sign up with your email. We will not spam you. This is free for all family members that are a part of the FIU community. It is a self-paced course that you can be able to take. And so if you want to go ahead and screenshot this page, you can be able to do that. In addition, one of the things that we would love to continue introducing is our family portal slash family Panther Family Hub. If you haven't yet registered for our Panther Family Hub, you can see a QR code that's listed on the screen. This is another opportunity where orientation and family programs will send all of our undergraduate families things that are happening in the institution. You also have a calendar on there with important events. You can opt into text messages in which we as an office will send you maybe text messages of things that are happening within the institution, reminders if you'd like to, even as well when we're having events. Another thing about the family portal is that you could choose a different language. So let's say if you're a Spanish speaking family, you can change the language to Spanish and it will translate things for you as well. You can also join different types of communities. So if you're a first generation family or a student with first generation family, if you also have a student that is a part of a fraternity or sorority, we do have a fraternity sorority community on there. We do have opportunities for you to join different communities as well. If you are having a student that's living on campus, you can join the housing community. So we want to make sure that you register. Anybody in your family can register, whether it's spouse, whether it's a partner, whether if it's you, whether if it's a parent, whether if it's an aunt, anyone can join. It's definitely important if it's a family member of current students at FIU, so you can go ahead and do so. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link also in the chat if you'd like to register for the family portal. Again, we email you things that are going on here at FIU, but this is specifically more for family members. So the page is go.fiu.edu/family portal. You're just going to go ahead and utilize an email and you can be able to register into the portal. I highly, highly encourage enrolling into text messages because that way you'll also, boom, be connected with things that are happening. We don't send lots of text messages, so it's not, let's say, 5 per day. It's very much scattered, but we do encourage all of our family members here to join and sign up for the portal. Last but not least, again, we want you to stay connected with our office. So we're going to be wrapping up our mini series. If you want to be able to follow us on Instagram, our page is at FIU Orientation. We also have 2 great student groups within our office, our orientation leaders and our Panther Camp facilitators, in which they help lead our new and incoming students. We're going to be hiring for new orientation leaders and Panther Camp facilitators starting next semester. And so if you want your student to hold a really important slash premier leadership role within our office, there's lots of great benefits that come with the orientation leader and Panther Camp experience. You can definitely see us on our website, but also there are other ways for you to stay connected. So one of them is our Facebook group. If you'd like to go ahead and take a picture of this slide, you can go ahead and do so. Our Facebook group has lots of different family members who'd like to join in on community. So that's our link to join our Facebook. We already talked about the Panther Hub. We also have a personal mailing list. If you just want to join our mailing list as a family member, you can spread this information along to any other loved ones. And last but not least, feel free to call us or email us. Myself and members of our student employees are in our office connecting with our family members every day. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and email me directly at family@fiu.edu, or you can give us a call. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And our phone number is 305-348-6414. All right, family members. Well, that is it about the night. I wish everyone a wonderful holiday experience. Hopefully, your student gets to connect with you this season. If not, hopefully, you get to see them and reconnect with them when you are able to. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week, and we look forward to connecting with you in some of our virtual spaces next semester. Okay? Have a great evening, everyone, and I hope everyone has a good night. Bye now.